All right, let's dive right in. We're going to tackle a question that sounds simple, but is actually one of the biggest, most mind-bending questions there is. What is this world we're all experiencing actually made of? It's a journey that's going to take us from a universe that runs like a clock all the way to the nature of consciousness itself. And trust me, it's going to challenge how you see, well, everything.
So, just for a second, look around. Seriously, you see stuff, right? Solid things. You feel the chair you're sitting on. It all feels so real, so material. And for hundreds of years, that's exactly what our smartest minds thought too. They looked out and saw a universe that was vast, incredibly well ordered, and run by a set of absolute, unbreakable laws. And this quote from Isaac Newton, it just nails that whole idea. It paints a picture of a creator setting up this grand stage, an absolute space and an absolute time, where everything plays out according to a very precise, very knowable script. That's our starting point. So welcome to the world of Isaac Newton. Imagine a universe that runs like a perfect, magnificent clock. Every single gear, every tick and talk, every movement is completely predictable. It's all governed by these beautiful, elegant laws that work the same for a falling apple as they do for a planet. And the heart of this clockwork universe is a concept Newton called Vis Insita. Today, we just call it inertia. And it's super intuitive, right? It's the idea that things just keep doing what they're doing. An object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion unless something else comes along and gives it a nudge. It's really the foundation of a predictable world. And Newton had this great way of explaining it. Think about a stone in a sling. If you swing it around, that stone wants to fly off in a straight line. That's inertia. But the sling is constantly pulling it back in, forcing it to move in a circle. That pull is centripetal force. And get this, the very same law that keeps that little stone spinning is what keeps the moon locked in orbit around the Earth. Simple, elegant, and totally predictable. But what happens when we start looking a little closer? You know, as our tools got better and our questions got weirder, that beautiful, simple clockwork universe started to show some cracks. That solid, predictable stuff we call matter started to look a whole lot stranger and way more mysterious. And that leads us to a really key shift in thinking. Matter isn't just stuff. As biologist Rupert Sheldrake puts it, it's a process. It's not a static billiard ball just sitting there. It's more like a dynamic little event, an ongoing vibration that's tied to its location in space through these invisible underlying fields. And this takes us to maybe one of the most incredible ideas in all of science. The solid world you see, in a very real way, it's just frozen light. Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared, tells us that energy and matter are basically two sides of the same coin. You can take pure energy, slow it down, and it can crystallize into the particles that make up, well, everything. Okay, but here's the giant, blinking problem with that beautiful idea. The physics says that when energy turns into matter, it should create an equal amount of its twin, antimatter. For every particle, there should be an antiparticle. But when we look out into the universe, we just see matter. The antimatter's missing. It's one of the biggest, most baffling, unsolved mysteries out there. And the weirdness isn't just about what matter is, but how it moves. We all know about position, speed, and acceleration. But did you know there are more layers to it? The rate of change of acceleration is actually officially called jerk. You know, that feeling when a car suddenly stops? But it doesn't stop there. Physicists have playfully named the next layers snap, crackle, and pop. It just goes to show you, beneath the surface of the reality we think we know, there's this whole other level of complexity. So yeah, the universe is way stranger than it looks. But now we're going to take a hard turn. So far, we've been talking about the outside world as if we're just these neutral observers. But what if the most important piece of the puzzle is you, the observer? What if the ghost in the machine is actually the one running the show? And this really brings us to the most radical question of all. Forget about deep space and subatomic particles for a minute. Can you actually trust your own eyes and ears to tell you what's real? The answer, as it turns out, is a hard no. Okay, look at these two squares. One of them looks orange, the other one looks brown. Pretty obvious, right? Wrong. They are the exact same color. I promise you. What's happening is your brain is not a passive camera. It's actively building what you see. It sees the shadow, does a quick calculation, and says, hey, for a square in a shadow to look like this, it must be a much lighter color. So it shows you orange. It's interpreting reality, not just recording it.
And it's not just your eyes. Your ears do it too. Listen to this audio clip. First, think of the word brainstorm. You'll hear brainstorm. Now think of the words green needle. You'll hear green needle. Go back and forth. You are deciding what you hear. Your brain is taking messy, ambiguous sound waves and snapping them into place based on what you expect to hear. It's incredible.
So what on earth is going on? Well, cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman has this game-changing theory. He says evolution didn't give us senses to see the truth. Not at all. It gave us a user interface. Think about the icons on your computer desktop. That little blue folder icon isn't the actual folder full of code and circuits, right? It's just a handy symbol that lets you use the computer without needing to be an engineer. Hoffman says our reality is like that. We see what we need to see to survive and reproduce, not what's actually there. Okay, so if what we perceive is really a personalized user interface, what's shaping it? What's designing the icons? The answer, it seems, might not be out there in the world, but deep inside our own minds. The philosopher Manly P. Hall had this fascinating idea that our inner world basically works like a movie projector. He said that we populate the unknown, the invisible world, with things from our own psychology. Our fears, our doubts, our insecurities. They don't just stay inside our heads. We project them out into the world, creating what he called psychic vortices. In other words, the monster under the bed isn't really out there. It's a shadow being cast by something inside of us. So we've kind of taken reality apart, right? We've gone from this solid, predictable machine to this mysterious dance of energy that's shaped by the user interface of our own minds. So, now what? Where does that leave us? Are we just stuck watching a movie our brain is making for us? Or, now that we know this, can we maybe shift from being spectators to being creators?
Before we can answer that, we kind of need a baseline. What even is life? NASA has a pretty solid working definition: a self-sustaining chemical system capable of Darwinian evolution. It's a pretty high bar, the line between just chemistry and actual living things. A line that, for all of history, we've only been able to observe from one side.
But that is changing, and it is changing fast. Back in the 50s, the Miller-Urey experiment was a huge deal because it showed that the basic building blocks of life could just pop up from non-living chemicals. But today, synthetic biologists are literally taking non-living molecules off the shelf and assembling them into systems that can copy themselves and evolve. We're learning to write the code of life itself.
And all of this brings us to one final huge thought. We started this journey with a solid, objective world. We found out that world is mostly empty space and frozen energy. Then we learned our perception of it is really just a story our brain tells us. And now we're on the very edge of creating life from scratch. So here's the question I want to leave you with. If reality really is a story, what happens when we realize we're the ones holding the pen? What new stories can we even begin to imagine?